Hello and welcome to Diving into Pool Season 2021. If we have not met before, my name is Melissa Rogers and I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Heritage Property Management Services. Tonight, Craig Sears of Sears Pool will be covering all of your opening basic questions and curiosities for the 2021 pool season. While we will be speaking about community association topics, we do encourage each of you to reach out to your association's attorney should you have any specific questions that you learn about the information tonight. This class is meant for pure educational entertainment only, and each of you are free to submit any questions in the Q&A section, which is located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, but please don't hesitate to submit those questions while you think of them. If this is your first time attending a Heritage University class, welcome. Heritage University offers a number of classes throughout the year, and you can find our schedule by visiting heritageproperty.com and selecting the Homeowner Resources section. Each of you attending tonight's class will get a full copy of tonight's recording and event access to the questions received this evening. So please feel free to put in your earpods, pour a glass of whatever you would like, and enjoy the next 60 minutes of pool fun. I now introduce you to Craig Sears.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Good evening, everybody. My name is Craig Sears with Sears Pool Management. We provide professional pool management services and have been doing so since 1997. We're very pleased to partner with Heritage on tonight's presentation and look forward to being a resource to you so that you can have a happy and safe pool opening season this year in 2021. So the cover slide here, as you may note, has an interesting design to it, and I like to think that it reminds me of coming out of the black hole of 2020, and we are now hopefully entering the light of 2021. And there's still some gravitational pull there sucking us back because we're not quite there where we want to be as far as with managing the pandemic, but we're getting there. And I think that with the proper steps, we can enjoy a great pool season this year. So without further ado, let's launch into it. We'll go to the next slide, please. So where are we with our COVID-19 swimming pool guidance? Well, in all sincerity, we are about the same place we were last year as far as what the CDC has to offer. Their guidance really has not changed much, with some minor exceptions. So the focus, and I put the link up there, and you'll get that in the slides when Melissa sends those out. But that is the link to the most current information about swimming pools operational guidance from the CDC. There is a little bit less of a focus or less of a worry on surface contamination or decontamination, I should say, as we now know after being, in this pandemic for a year now, that surface transmission is not the primary means of transmission. And so not that we shouldn't worry about it at all, but we probably shouldn't over worry about it either. And that the primary means is still airborne. And so, social distancing is going to be a key factor. Mask wearing in certain environments is obviously still encouraged. Really the only recent update to CDC guidance was made last month, February 1st, which allows for social distancing exceptions during rescues, CPR, first aid, and emergency facility evacuations at your pool. So I like to call this the duh moment because, of course, who's going to enforce social distancing when you're in the middle of a rescue or other life-saving or emergency type situation? As an industry, we had been asking for an exemption for that from CDC. Just to be clear, from a legal standpoint, we don't want to be held liable for somebody contracting COVID because, let's say, a lifeguard was performing CPR on them. So it's good that is now part of the guidance. So the next link on there is the PHTA Corona update. PHTA stands for Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. That is our trade association for the pool and hot tub industry. And the PHTA Corona update website has also a great resource of a treasure trove of information up there regarding swimming pool operational guidance. So we also refer people there. As far as the Georgia Department of Health COVID-19 guidance goes, we're still following Governor Kemp's executive order, which has been pretty consistent. And the current executive order goes through April 6th. This is similar to the CDC, pretty much follows CDC guidance in that there is less emphasis on surface cleaning, but still all the other guidance is remaining the same. We are expecting some sort of update from the governor's office, hopefully as it approaches April 6th, and hopefully with some good news about the possibilities of opening up with possibly with less restriction going into this spring. The good news overall is that even though we are a year into this pandemic, there are still no confirmed cases of SARS-CoV-2 transmission at a swimming pool facility. That includes both outdoor and indoor facilities. At the end of last summer, there was a lot of anxiety about, well, we've made it through the summer without any outdoor transmission. What's going to happen now as we go back indoors? And the good news is that the protocols that indoor natatoriums have been putting in place seem to be working, because there is still yet to be a case of transmission there. The protocols that they've been putting in place have been things like limiting occupancy in the locker rooms and limiting occupancy in the pool areas. So, controlling bather load and social distancing still remains important strategies when thinking about opening your pool this summer. So let's go to the next slide. For community pool operational guidance, as I said before, basically it's going to be similar to the guidance that we provided and the CDC and others provided last year, where social distancing is really going to be your primary means of preventing transmission. And so in order to achieve social distancing, we need to limit the number of folks coming in the same way that we did last year, and encourage mask wearing where applicable. Regular surface disinfection is still recommended. Although the urgency of that has been dialed back due to recent findings that doesn't seem to be the primary means of transmission. As Melissa said earlier, you want to consult with your HOA attorney, also your insurance agent and property manager prior to making a decision to open this summer. And of course, you want to reassess your operational strategy. If you did open last year, take a look at that strategy and discuss it from the standpoint of, did you have any challenges? Did you, what could you do better this year to make it smoother and easier for everyone? Remember that part of that strategy should have or should include having a COVID point of contact for the community. So this is somebody who should be very familiar with your operational strategy and should be able to handle any questions from the community or others that may arise related to COVID and COVID policies at the community. We don't want to have just anybody taking those questions, especially, let's say a lifeguard. We don't want them responsible for answering a question about a COVID policy, particularly if there's an allegation that someone might have contracted COVID at the facility. We want that COVID point of contact person knowing what the proper steps are and handling that potential issue. So at this time, we are still recommending that clients refrain from hosting community gatherings and parties. So that would include end of school, graduation, birthday parties, sports teams, etc., until the guidance changes. If the guidance from Governor Kemp changes, then we may change our recommendation as well. But at this point, we think it's smart to refrain from hosting those large gatherings. And we're recommending probably, even if Governor Kemp does change, from a safety standpoint, it might be smart just to wait until we get into the season, maybe get through July 4th when swimming pool usage starts to taper off anyway, before we consider hosting large events at our pools. So let's go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you want to review that COVID-19 operational plan and also refresh it. So if you had people that were responsible for certain duties last year, are those same volunteers or committee members going to volunteer again this year? It's, you need to make sure that they're ready, hopefully to step up. And there could be a different group of folks that you have to recruit. We developed an online questionnaire for our clients last year to kind of help go through all the steps of the guidance. That questionnaire is still available online, and it covers things like, confirming your open date, your staff start date, what the mask policy is. I can tell you that most communities are not requiring masks at outdoor pools. That seems to be the norm. And I think it's probably because it's rather difficult to enforce. Certainly while in the water, we cannot require masks. But if you want to require masks at the facility while people are out of the water, that would be at your prerogative. Your lost and found policy, your guest policy, I think most communities are still looking at restricting guests this year. Adjusted max bather load, which we are still recommending anywhere from 25 to 50% of what your normal max bather load is. The reason for that variation is because often the max bather load calculations are made based upon the square footage of surface area in your water space. But because there is such a wide variance on deck space from one community to another, you may have more flexibility there as far as ensuring social distancing when you're creating or calculating rather that adjusted max bather load. Your COVID-19 signage, which we're going to talk about here in a slide and on the next slide, or maybe the one after that. Your reservation policy, so it may be something that you want to reconsider this year. Do you want to do reservations again if you did them last year, or did you find that it wasn't really helpful, or maybe there were some hiccups in your reservation policy? That is something to consider and review. And your furniture policy. We think that there's going to be more clients putting their furniture out this year because of the fact that surface transmission is not considered a primary means of transmission. But again, that is an individual community policy. And I would suggest that even if you decide to put your furniture out, that you still remind patrons that they should be responsible for disinfecting the furniture between usage. And again, remember that you need a COVID point of contact, so that needs to be part of that operational plan. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here's the COVID-19 signage that we recommend. The first one, really the primary focus of that sign is the social distancing. That needs to be posted in your pool area, recommended at least near the entrance, if not multiple places. Proper hand washing needs to be posted in and around the restrooms. And then the newest sign is the one on the right there, the warning sign. And that's we call it the COVID liability protection sign. This sign came into being last year after our state legislature passed a law and then the governor finally signed it in July of last year, that protects businesses, and HOAs are businesses. So HOAs would fall under this protection, that as long as you have that sign posted there, and it's got to be worded exactly the way that we have it worded there, and the letters have to be at least in 1-inch font. So this has to be posted at every entrance to your amenities. Now, this is not just for your pool, but also for your tennis courts, your clubhouse, your gym, any area where you are deciding that you're going to open it to the members. We highly recommend that you have this sign posted. It's not required, but quite honestly, you'd be crazy not to have it posted. This sign basically provides protection for you as an association should somebody allege that they contracted COVID-19 at your facility. If you've got this sign posted, it's going to make it much more difficult for them to mount that charge against the homeowners association. Pretty much nearly impossible. But again, I'm not an attorney. Don't take that from me. Please talk to your attorney. But we do have these signs available. So even if we are not your pool company and you just need to pick up these signs, we do stock these signs. They are available at our office in Sandy Springs for sale and pickup. So let's move on to the next slide. So I'm sure that we've all heard a lot in the news about how the pandemic is affecting different industries. The news has not really covered how it's affecting the pool industry. So I'd like to update you on that for a moment because this has some factors that are going to affect homeowners associations this summer. So the first thing I'd like to bring to everyone's attention is from the start of the pandemic, when everyone went into lockdown, we saw a sudden spike in demand for new pool construction for residential pools. Makes sense because now people are looking for new things to do or different things to do at home and stay preoccupied through and hopefully sane throughout this pandemic. So we've seen a major spike in that, and reputable builders that I've spoken to have said they're anywhere from 6 months to a year out on clients when they ask for a quote at this point for a new pool. So that has a ripple effect. We've also seen supply chain interruptions, just like many other industries. We've seen temporary manufacturing plant shutdowns for various different products. We've seen slower production due to the COVID-19 manufacturing protocols that these plants now need to follow. And of course, we've seen shipping delays. A lot of this has to do with where the plants are located and what's happening in that particular state as far as the regulations go. So it varies widely from one manufacturer to another and from one product to another. We've also seen an increase demand for chlorine outside the industry for use as a sanitizer. Everybody knows that chlorine kills and sanitizes, and so it also is a part of a lot of sanitizing products, not just the chlorine that we use for our pools. And so that has caused increased demand on this raw material. These factors have combined to cause a shortage in skilled labor, construction products, and materials. And it's no surprise when you have shortages in these types of things, you see increased cost. So we are seeing increased costs in chemicals, products, and services across the board for the pool industry. Literally every manufacturer rolled out price increases this year, and usually if they roll out a price increase, they try to guarantee that they're going to be able to hold that price for the year. Many manufacturers have said that they may not be able to hold their prices for the year, not knowing what demand is going to look like and what COVID restrictions may look like for this year. But hopefully things are getting better. So I don't want to speak from a fear-mongering standpoint here. I think that we are definitely moving in the right direction, and hopefully these situations will start to ease. But for now, we've seen a backlog on a lot of this, a lot of products and materials. So as far as how does that affect you? So if you're planning a repair or renovation this year, we suggest that you plan a lot of extra time for that. Here we are, it's late March, and if you have not already, contracted with somebody to perform a repair or renovation before this pool season, you're just about out of time. So I would suggest that you make that decision very quickly. If there's any work that doesn't have to be done in order to get you open this season, you might want to consider delaying that until the fall. Now, I wouldn't suggest delaying the decision until the fall. I would still go ahead and make the decision and commit to a contractor to get on someone's schedule, because I do anticipate that there will be a backlog in the fall as well. So I wouldn't suggest waiting till then. But if you don't have to have it done before pool season this year, you could potentially postpone it. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So as we know, 2020 was a full-on dumpster fire, and we also ended up having an actual fire at a chlorine manufacturing plant in Louisiana. You may have heard about this. I have been doing my best to try to get word out, because it's really going to have a major impact on the industry this year. So trichlor, if you're not sure what that is, it comes in the two forms there, the two pictures at the top of the slide. We affectionately call them sticks and pucks, or tabs, because they look like little sticks or little cylinders and hockey pucks. And this is an extremely popular form of chlorine that a lot of residential pools use and a lot of commercial pools use. There's really only 3 plants in the United States that make this product. And in August 2020, Hurricane Laura hit the Louisiana coast, and the damage that occurred to the biolab plant there from that storm caused a fire. Now, the plant had already been evacuated for the hurricane, but so basically the fire went on unabated, and the plant was a total loss. That's a picture there of the plant burning the day that it caught fire. This particular plant was responsible for over 1/3 of production of trichlor nationwide. And they have since issued a statement that they do not anticipate this plant will be back reconstructed and online until spring or summer of 2022. So you can fully anticipate that we will have a major trichlor shortage this year and next year, because even if they do manage to keep to their construction schedule, they usually use the off months, the winter months, to build up production and store a lot of chlorine for the busy season. In fact, they had a second fire last year at the distribution center here in Atlanta, on the southeast side of town, just last year, where some of the stock that they had there also burned. So it's like a double whammy. It's not a good situation. So if your pool is operating on trichlor, then you need to have a plan to switch to a different chemical for this season. We are telling our customers, if you're operating on trichlor, we are not able to hold your price for the year because we just don't know what this product is going to cost this year. So far, we've seen anywhere from 80 to 100% price increases during the off season for this product as people are freaking out and trying to get their hands on as much as possible. And that's during the off season when there's limited demand. So as we head into the season, we are directing clients who are operating on trichlor to please make a plan as quickly as possible to try to switch to either a salt system or a liquid system. Those are the two those are the two most viable options that we recommend. There's also a calcium hypochlorite option that is a potential third option there, but it's a little bit more difficult of a swap there. So just to be aware of that, if you are not sure what type of chlorine your pool operates on, go ahead and ask your pool company so that you make sure you know. And if you need to make a plan, make a plan quickly. I have talked with salt manufacturers, salt chlorine generator manufacturers. They have been monitoring this situation and they have been stocking up. So hopefully there will be adequate supplies there. There is some concern as far as whether or not the bleach manufacturing will be able to keep up with the demand on the number of people switching to bleach. So just to be aware of that, that remains to be seen. So we are definitely anticipating a chlorine shortage this year. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide. So just when you thought it couldn't get more confusing or crazy, the U.S. Department of Energy rolled out new regulations that take effect this year in July, and they affect swimming pool pumps. The pumps that are affected, they don't affect all pumps, but they affect certain pumps, which we'll talk about. The pumps that are affected are not allowed to be manufactured after July 19th of 2021. So manufacturers are doing their best to try to produce excess in advance of that date, but due to all the COVID issues that they've had with manufacturing, they are behind. The type of pumps that are affected are the 1 horsepower to 3 horsepower single speed pumps, which happens to be the most popular pool pump models on commercial pools. Wouldn't you know? So what are your options? Well, I don't want to cause panic here because this new regulation prohibits the construction or the manufacture of new pool pumps as a unit after that date. It does not prohibit parts manufacturing. So parts will still be available for these single speed 1 horsepower and 3 horsepower pumps. And that we anticipate that will be available easily through this season and probably into next season as well as far as parts. So if you do have something that goes down, your pool company should be able to find the parts and make the repair. But with that said, you as a board or a property manager should know that it would be the wise thing to do would be to go ahead and plan with your pool company for an equipment upgrade in the pump room, and to go ahead and start budgeting for that. We're recommending that within the next couple of years, it's going to be, it's the way everything is heading. Even though you can still get parts for a while, eventually everybody's going to be moving to these variable speed motors, which that's what the picture is of there. And you can see, well, I'll explain how those work in just a moment. There are some exemptions. It does not affect 5 horsepower and larger pumps. So if your pool is operating on a single pump that is 5 horsepower or larger, you're okay. If you are operating on a pump that uses 3-phase electricity, you're okay. You're exempt. If you are using those single speed pumps in the 1 to 3 horsepower range, then it's time to start putting together a plan for upgrading your pump room. Doesn't have to be done this year. Probably doesn't even have to be done next year, although it would be smart to plan for it, by next year or the following year at the latest. We anticipate that it's going to be the smarter way to go. As the good advantage is with these pumps is that they should be able to save you a little bit of money on electricity. And so I'll explain the difference between single speed pumps and variable speed pumps. It's fairly obvious in the fact that variable speed, you can control the speed. Single speed, it only runs at 1 speed. So why is that important? Well, when you're designing a circulation and filtration system, your pool has to turn over every 6 hours per code. That means if you've got a 30,000 gallon pool, 30,000 gallons has to go through your system every 6 hours. So whatever the flow rate is required for that, I can't do the math in my head that quickly, but let's say your flow rate is 150 gallons per minute that you need, and you had to put in a single speed pump because that's most of what was available earlier before these came out. And so you probably picked a pump that maybe operates at 200 gallons per minute so that you could safely achieve that 150 gallon per minute rate, which is necessary to get a 6 hour turnover. With a variable speed pump, you can now take that same pump that has a normal operational speed of 200 gallons per minute and dial it back to operate at 150 gallons per minute, thereby saving the energy of that 50 gallons per minute and not having to pay for the electricity to operate at that extra speed. So that's the advantage of it. Now these pumps are more expensive. They are actually considerably more expensive than the single speed pump, but they will save you money in the long run. But it's also an option if you've got multiple pumps. It's a great time to look at simplifying and streamlining your system to a single pump, larger pump rather, 5 horsepower and up, which will also get you a number of the efficiencies that you can capture that way, as opposed to going with the variable speed. So there's options there. The overall point is here: don't panic, but be aware of this regulation, and go ahead and start the conversation with your pool company and get some recommendations on if this is going to affect you. And if it is, what are the options to consider? So let's go ahead to the next slide. So a couple of slides here that I've got that are county specific. If you are in Fulton County, we've been getting a lot of questions about this this year because this has been in the code for a little while. But as counties sometimes do, they decide that they're going to enforce different parts of the code at different times. And so they have decided that they are going to start enforcing this portion of the code. And what it has to do with is the international no diving symbol. So the picture that you see up there is the international no diving symbol. These will now be required to be installed in pools in Fulton County on the deck. And they are to be installed next to the depth markers, not the no diving. So you still have to have the no diving tiles. Those are the 6x6 tiles that have the big 4-inch letters that say no diving with no illustration, just the words. You still have to have those. But now you will also have to have this international no diving symbol, but that international no diving symbol doesn't go next to the no diving word tiles, it goes next to the depth marker tiles. So anywhere that you have a depth marker on the shallow end deck, it needs to go there. It does not need to go in the water line tile, so you don't have to drain the water down to put these in. And it needs to be done by next season, or if you are doing a renovation this season, it needs to be done now for 2021. So just to be aware of that. This has been definitely a point of confusion, and it took us a while to get some clarification from the county, but we got it. So we want to make sure that this is clear out there, because we've heard that there's even confusion among pool companies who've been recommending this. Now, I want to specify as well, if your pool does not go over 5 feet deep, then you need these all around the pool. But any areas of the pool that are over 5 feet deep are considered diving areas, so they would not be required in those areas. All right, let's go to the next slide. So some changes, and these are very recent here to Gwinnett County. These just came out this month. So Gwinnett County has increased their permit fee this year. They said in the letter that was announcing it that they haven't increased it in more than 10 years, and so it was time for an increase. So just be aware of that. If you're in Gwinnett County, look for an increase this year. And they have decided that this year they are going to allow pools to open without a pre-opening inspection. Last year they were requiring that due to the COVID scares, but this year it's going to be okay to go ahead and open without that pre-opening inspection, and then they will conduct follow-up inspections after that fact, as they have done in previous years. But they are saying, I'll say requesting / requiring, that pools without on-site staff must submit the access information to the county so that they can conduct surprise inspections throughout the season. So this email that you see up here is GwinnettHealthPoolInspections@gmail.com. They're asking all pool owners in Gwinnett County, commercial pool owners, to email that link, and you will get a reply. Email that email, and you will get a reply with a link in it that will take you to a spot where you can enter all the information so that the health inspectors can come to the pool and they can get in and they can perform their health inspections. We ask that when you fill that out, please provide complete information. And I have not seen the form yet that you have to fill out, but if there's a place to put your pool company there, we highly recommend that you put the pool company and their contact information in there. Gwinnett County, one of the challenges that we run into sometimes with the surprise inspections that they do, if they come out and find a violation, whether it's the phone not working or the fence is broken or the pH is off, no matter what the violation is, if they close it, they're going to go ahead and close it immediately, and they're going to post a sign up there. But what we want them to do is to notify you and to notify us so that can be corrected immediately. And so, or your pool company if it's not us. So putting that information in there would be really important as well. In the past, that's sometimes been a challenge where if the county didn't have your contact information or our contact information, they would shut the pool down and nobody knows anything until the next patron goes down there and finds the pool closed sign. And then we have to contact the county and find out what was wrong, et cetera, et cetera. It's a big headache. So please, when you're filling out that form, make sure you include the information for your pool company if possible. As usual, they will be charging fees for the follow-up inspections, so just to be aware of that. They did not specify in the letter if that fee structure is changing, but I think in the past it's been around $100 for each reinspection from Gwinnett County. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the pool permit process. This will depend on the county that you're in. So you want to go ahead, if you're on the board, and discuss with your pool company who's taking care of what. So the second bullet down there has the counties listed where they will send the paperwork either to you, the property owner or pool owner, or the property manager. And those counties include Gwinnett, DeKalb, Cherokee, Clayton, Fayette, and Henry. The following list of counties will send the paperwork to your pool company if requested. That includes Cobb, Douglas, and Fulton. And then some counties do not require annual permitting for neighborhood pools. Those include Forsyth, Hall, and Paulding. So just to be aware of that as well. Not that there is no oversight in those counties, but it is the oversight falls to the state health department in those counties, because the counties have basically determined they don't have the manpower and don't believe that they should be responsible for supervising the community pools there. So that will typically fall to the state, but the state does not have a permit process for that. So our policy, and you would have to check with your pool company if it's not us, if you're in Cobb, Douglas, or Fulton, and you want us to handle the pool permit process for you, we will do that turnkey. We will contact in fact, we prefer to do it that way because it makes it easier for getting it done and knowing that it's getting done and scheduling the inspections. There's no markup to do that. We will contact the county on your behalf, secure the paperwork, fill it out, turn it in with the fee, and then invoice you the cost of the fee. If you would like assistance in the other counties, we can help you and assist with that, but we would probably have to request that you get the paperwork and send it to us, and then we can help you with the paperwork there. All right, let's go to the next county. I'm sorry, to the next slide. So we do have training available. If you have anybody in your community who's interested in becoming a certified pool operator, if you want to take care of your own pool, or if you want to know how to properly test and adjust the chemistry in your pool on the days that your pool company is not there, you can take a CPO class. We do offer that. Some other pool companies offer that as well. We actually just wrapped up a CPO class today, and we have another one going on in April. If you are staffing lifeguards or pool attendants, one of the best pieces of advice I can give board members is work with your pool company and refer quality individuals to them. If you live in the community, you know the kids that are going to be quality employees. You're familiar with them. Encourage them to apply with your pool company. Even if you have a policy that they can't work at your pool, that's okay, because they could work at a pool down the street and the community down the street can reciprocate and hopefully recruit guards that end up working at your pool. We have found over the years that this is one of the best ways to get young folks to come in and apply who are serious about the job and would make good candidates. We have found that with the current younger generation, they are more likely to apply for a job if they have been recommended or referred by a trusted friend or a parent who they know. So that's why we encourage you to work with your pool company, whether it's us or whoever you're hiring, to send staff to them. Lifeguards are considered first responders, which is a nice bonus there because it allows us to continue with our training and certification classes during the pandemic. That was a clarification that came out last year during the pandemic. And so that's basically it about the training. So we can go on to the next slide. So in summary, basically review and refresh your HOA COVID-19 operational plan and your signage. Switch away from trichlorochlorine to bleach or salt, if that is what you're using. And plan for your facility upgrades. If you are in Fulton County, plan to put those no diving symbols in. If you have pumps that are in that 1 to 3 horsepower single speed design, go ahead and budget for a pump room redesign. Check your permit process, make sure that that is happening. Some counties, like Cobb is the one that sends their permits out first. They send them out in January. So, and they're already due back in February. So other counties are usually sending them out closer to around now in March. But check on your permit process, make sure that somebody has received that paperwork and it's getting processed so that it doesn't cause a delay in your opening. And then refer responsible teens and young adults. And finally, you will have a fantastic summer. And the next slide, I believe, has my contact information. If you would like to reach out to me as a resource, you are free to do that. Are you able to go to the next slide? There we go. Yep. And I'll be happy to take questions at this time. All right. Looks like questions are coming in. Okay, so does this mean the requirement for cleaning surfaces twice daily has been removed? It basically, I need to go to, in order to answer that question, I need to reread to refresh my memory what the exact wording is, but I believe it says that something to the effect, it's rather vague, to clean surfaces frequently and as needed, keeping in mind the frequency of use. So I think basically what the CDC is saying there is to use your judgment. If you've got a pool that gets very little usage, you know, twice daily is probably overkill on certain surfaces. But if you're getting heavy usage, you know, maybe 3 times daily is what you need. So I think what they're trying to do is kind of hedge their bets and say use good judgment, because they know that there is a wide discrepancy from one community to another or one facility to another in the way that your facility is being used. But the link that contains that CDC guidance should have the exact wording. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think that's the gist of it. Doesn't Governor Kemp's executive order focus on gatherings, which is defined as over 50 people? Yes, so gatherings are defined as over 50 people where social distancing is not possible. So that's where we get the recommendation of refraining from having large group gatherings, because if you're doing, let's say, you know, a Memorial Day cookout and you have 75 people show up for that and they're all in line getting hot dogs and hamburgers, then they may not be socially distancing. You're taking on some risk there that's probably not really necessary and may not be wise. But for people just coming to the pool and being at the pool, as like, you know, family A over here, family B over here, family C in the middle, as long as they are staying in their family units and socially distancing, the same as last year, we don't see that being a problem. But just to clarify, gatherings is defined as a group of people over 50, not 50 age, but 50 people that are not able to social distance due to space restrictions. So that is correct. Our HO pool is not monitored by anyone, no lifeguard, no board. So how does one have the pool users socially distance when the board is not down at the pool? That is a great question, and that is something that has basically was a question last year as well. So if you don't have anybody down there, the best way that you could show due diligence, in my opinion, again, ask your attorney, but in my opinion, to show due diligence in trying to control social distancing is to have a reservation system or have signage posted as far as what the max number of people allowed in the pool area is, and signage up there reminding people that they need to social distance. So at least at that point, you have done your duty to warn them and inform them that social distancing is required. And in the case of reservation systems, that you need a reservation to come. You can't just show up. But that would be the method that I would recommend. You can also, a number of communities have gone to marking their decks, and I think that that shows a good thought process. Whether or not the patrons follow that is another matter. But again, you're trying to show that you have taken due diligence to follow the guidance as best as you can with the resources that you have, recognizing that a lot of communities simply cannot afford to have staff down there monitoring this all the time, and that the staff really, particularly lifeguards, are really not in a position to monitor social distancing anyway, because they don't know necessarily that family A and family B hangs out all the time every weekend, and they might as well be a family unit, and so it's not as critical for them to socially distance as it would be for, say, these other folks over here. Lifeguard's not going to necessarily know that. Okay, let's go to the next question. How does the Georgia COVID-19 Pandemic Business Safety Act, current expiration of July 14th, 2021, affect these recommendations? So great question. That is one that you should definitely ask your attorney. I'll explain to my understanding, which now I will say that this Business Safety Act had just recently was renewed by the state legislature. So in other words, they have approved a 1-year extension, and it is now awaiting the governor's signature. Everyone expects that will pass, which would extend it into July of 2022. Basically, it creates an additional barrier for a plaintiff to bring a suit against an association alleging that they contracted COVID-19. If this sign is posted and it meets the requirements of the sign, and the wording is exactly written the right way, and the font is the right size, etc., then it would be, in my opinion, very difficult for a plaintiff to make an effective case that some damages should be awarded, because this sign has effectively warned any individual coming in that facility that you're entering at your own risk, and there's no guarantee that you will not get COVID by entering this facility. All right. In reference to the outdoor pool furniture, we were planning on having a volunteer committee to disinfect and sanitize twice a day. You mentioned that patrons should be responsible for disinfection between usage. Did I understand that correctly? So if you, so yes and yes, let me answer that. If you have the ability to have a committee or a group of folks that can disinfect between uses, that's going to be a better option because you've got somebody who's committed to doing that. If you don't have the manpower or the budget to do that, then the next best option would be to communicate to your residents that we really want you to take responsibility for disinfecting this. And I would, even if you do have that volunteer committee, I would still recommend that every patron that comes down bring their own sanitizer and disinfectant to disinfect surfaces between usage. It's anything that you can say. I mean, if it gets disinfected 3 times between usage, all the better. I think basically what we're saying there is we don't have to worry as much about that sort of transmission as we did last year, where we were still concerned about it as potentially a frequent way of means of transmission, whereas it appears it's very highly unlikely or very infrequent, I would say, is what it appears right now. Okay. Several questions about the signs. Do I need all 3 signs to be displayed? Yes, you do need all 3. You can make your own signs as long as they follow the guidance. And how much do the signs cost? So off the top of my head, I can't remember. I want to say the hand washing sign is like $10. The COVID liability sign I think is $16.50. And the social distancing is maybe like 20 or 25 bucks or something like that. So they're very, we're not getting rich on making these signs. We we try to, we know that everybody needs them. We had them custom made for these purposes, and we just, we want folks to have them, to have the warning protection that you can have from the signs. So let's go to the next question. Okay, somebody asked, can we make our own signs? Yes, you can. Gwinnett County question. If the management and the pool company contact information is posted at the pool, will this suffice? It will certainly help. So I would recommend that you do post it there. I can't guarantee that, that the health department person is going to contact, but it certainly helps. I know we try every year to reach out to Gwinnett County and ask them to please let us know if they go to any of the facilities that we manage and alert us immediately. And then it's up to each individual inspector. But certainly that can't help. I mean, can't hurt, rather. Sorry. Next question. Any suggestions on how to enforce pool capacity? That's a tough one. So you can have a pool attendant. A pool attendant can enforce pool capacity. But like a lifeguard, they're going to have a little bit difficulty enforcing social distancing because they don't really necessarily know who's related to whom and who spends time with whom all the time. But they can enforce pool capacity. So if you can't afford a pool attendant, that's one option. If you have a reservation system, that's another option to help control pool capacity. If but I'll be honest, we have clients that have 50, 60 homes, maybe even 70, 80 homes in their community, and the pool just doesn't get used that often. And even on a busy day, there might be 3 families down there, and so those communities, by and large, have opted to just open without reservation system and ask the residents to be respectful. Now that, again, that I'm not saying that is what you should do. You should consult with your attorney. But I think that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's you have to weigh your risk tolerance, and you want to make sure that you are showing due diligence, that you are taking steps to mitigate the risks as much as would make reasonable sense. Okay, are we required to take people's temperatures as they enter the pool? No. Great question. We are not required to take people's temperatures as they enter the pool. That was a suggestion that initially happened at the beginning of the pandemic, and then was suggested against because of the information being part of private health information. There could be some privacy issues with collecting that information. You are allowed to ask people, and the attendant would be able to, if you hire an attendant, you could have them ask people, do you have a fever? Do you have these symptoms? So certainly that the attendant could do that. How often should a pool company check the pH of the pool? And is this something we should do ourselves daily? So if you have a lifeguard or attendant, the lifeguard or attendant should be checking that typically 3 times a day. Some counties require twice a day, but at least twice a day would be the norm with a lifeguard or an attendant. If you don't have that, technically speaking, chlorine pH should be tested at least twice a day per most county codes. And the reality of this is that unfortunately a lot of our pools that don't have a budget for an attendant or a lifeguard, and the board members do not have the manpower to do that themselves. Quite honestly, it doesn't happen. So the health departments are aware of this to the large extent. Some of them are more flexible with it than others. Cherokee County is one of the least flexible with it. They still want that being done and can penalize you or slap you on the hand for not doing that. Some of the other counties are not as strict with the enforcement of that, but technically speaking, it should be done at least twice a day. Next question. Some community pools require usage by appointment only. Others have pool monitors or staff individuals once they enter the pool. Is this something you would recommend? Certainly, if you have the budget to do that, yes, I would say that is a good way to assist managing, at least as far as it goes, as far as pool capacity. But as I said, enforcing social distancing gets a little tricky. So that is a little difficult. But if you've got the budget and staff are available, that's the other component of that. If you wait too late till the season has started and then you ask for staff, there may not, your pool company may not have any staff for you. Next question. How do I know the pool capacity? So the pool capacity calculation is going to be part of it's in your county health code, so that will vary from one county to the next. Usually it has to do with the square footage of the pool area, and then there's a calculation to do from that. And there is a different calculation for deep water versus shallow water. So basically you'd want to, the easy solution for you would be to ask your pool company, and they should be able to calculate it for you if you need that. And I think my understanding is that we are reaching the end of questions. So if anybody has a final question, we can take that. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Heritage, for hosting this wonderful event. And I hope that this has been informative to you. Even if you don't use us as a service, we are happy to be a resource to you. So feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Sears Pool for being such a phenomenal community partner to all of our associations. On behalf of Heritage University and Heritage Property Management, we thank all of you for joining us and look forward to seeing you next time.